Hey guys, Mars Thinking here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so we have the next part of the Extreme Super Battle Road team building guides, and as you can see we are on the Extreme STR version for today, so versus Super Physical, and we're going to go through my top picks and a couple of honourable mentions for building the team. So obviously, on your screen right now, you can see this madman, this absolute beast, one of the best Extreme STR units in the game currently, the Final Form Cooler, or at least 4th Form Cooler who transforms into Final Form Cooler. He is incredibly good. I think we all know this at this point, but Super Battle Road, like, sometimes, depending on the role that you get for the fights that you're going to have in that run, like 3 out of the 4 fights you can have a Pure Saiyan or Hybrid Saiyan enemy, which means you're going to be able to transform on turn 3, start getting guaranteed crits. So this guy is absolutely ridiculous. He is not only good on your team, but as a team leader, it's very easy to make a full Extreme STR Transformation Boost or Terrifying Conquerors team. So he's a really good leader, because obviously whenever you can get anything above the 120% for your leader skill, then that is going to help you out massively overall. So this guy is absolutely incredible. You're going to see him transform very regularly. He's going to hit insanely hard, gets the chance to become an additional super, and then obviously get guaranteed crits against those particular enemies. So he's going to be able to dish out tons of damage. He's not the best defensive unit in the game, but as you can see, I mean, he gives himself 180% defense, so his defense is still good, but like obviously without items he will still take a little bit of damage, and super attacks are definitely going to hurt him. But he is an incredibly good unit and one of my top picks for not just the team but actually leading the team as well. So in that same vein, we go on to STR Super Buu. Now STR Super Buu gets memed on a lot. He's not that great. Couple of things he can bring to the table for Super Battle Road though is he does lower attack with his super, which is something that is always very, very useful. You're not likely to see him transform because you can't do it until turn 5, and then depending on how your run is going, you're probably going to get him to transform into Ulma Gohan. But the Buu Piccolo is actually one of the better transformations, but you have to be at 49% or below HP. But then he recovers HP at the start of the turn and actually buffs all allies with ki and defense, which is really good. But you're probably likely to see this one. You do still recover a little bit of HP. He's got reasonable stats, but he definitely does not tank super well in Super Battle Road. But one of the other reasons that he's here and so early on in the list is of course the fact that he is a transformation boost or Extreme STR leader. So if you don't have Cooler, but you want to make an Extreme STR Transformation Boost team and then bring a cooler friend, you can bring this guy as the leader, and then you're probably just going to be floating him off in the 3rd spot because he probably is going to be a bit of a liability for the team, but it will allow you to run that cooler team without having cooler yourself. So then we go on to the hit. I mentioned this in the first part. It'll get mentioned in every part, I'm sure. But the 50% support units are absolute must-haves. If you have them, you should absolutely be using them. So hit is really good. He raises defense on super, so that obviously helps him out anyway. But he does have a medium chance to stun, which is it 25 or 30 for him? Yeah, 30%. So there's a 30% chance to stun, which in Super Battle Road is always incredibly useful. And then of course he's a nuking type unit. If you get enough orbs with him, he'll be able to tank reasonably well as deal decent enough damage. And of course that 50% buff and 3 ki to everybody else on the rotation is just a godsend on this mode. Like, getting that huge buff on a mode like this is incredible because everyone's going to tank better, hit harder, and your overall survivability is going to be high. Plus, he is a better leader technically than Janemba if you have to resort to just using a generic Extreme STR lead, because he gives the 120% to stats, but also gives 4 ki. So any LRs on the team are going to be better off. And even if you just get some of those bad rotations sometimes with not the best ki links and not a great field of orbs, having extra ki in your leader skill is always going to be very, very helpful. Unfortunately, he's one of the type units that I don't have, so I will have to do it without him, but you definitely should be using him if you have him. So then we go on to the other extreme STR lead, or the other main one, the Super Janemba, 120% and free key. He does decent damage. Guard activated against all attacks obviously doesn't really do anything in Super Battle Road because we're always fighting super physical types. But he has a medium chance to dodge, which for him is 30%. So it can be good, but the problem is if he doesn't dodge, he will actually take quite a bit of damage. He links up well with Cooler, so I mean he is good on the team, and if you get like the good RNG, then obviously he can potentially take 0 damage for you. And there's going to be instances where he's going to be able to dodge super attacks, and obviously you're going to come away from that turn with a big W thanks to that dodge. But unfortunately, and I found this back when the mono stages first came out, and it's why we always meme about Janemba and meme about me thinking that Super 17 is better, is because I did a lot of runs on the OG versus super physical stage where Janemba just would not dodge, and it constantly got me killed. So I do still think he's a good include on the team, but you just need to be aware that that 30%, I mean, that's not a high amount. Think about that's the same chance as the any of the Super Saiyan 4s who aren't Gogeta countering a super attack. And so those of you who've used them quite a lot will know that that doesn't proc all that often. And that's the chance that you have. But he is a good lead if you don't have to use anyone else. And he can hit reasonably hard. So he's not a bad unit by any means for using on your team. So then we go on to Full Power Frieza. So one of the LRs that can actually be good in this mode. He's got a reasonable amount of defense. He's not crazy high. You do sacrifice some HP on his 12 key super, which is not ideal. But it does do Mega Colossal on his 12 key. I think he's still the only LR that does that. And then he greatly raises attack and does Mega Colossal on his 18 key. So he is able to hit incredibly hard. And of course, depending on your HP, the lower your HP, the more of an attack buff you get, as well as more key, making it easier to get that 18 key super. And I mean, if you are unlucky enough to start the turn on 30% HP or less, you get not only all these buffs, but you get a guaranteed crit as well. So he's got good links. He's going to link up well with like units like Cooler, and he is on Cooler's team. But the problem is, his main key link is over in a flash outside of the strongest clan in space. So depending on your team build, it might be a little bit difficult to get key with him. So you are going to be relying on his passive a little bit. And then the other thing you can do is, of course, you can use him to run a full Extreme STR full power team. Because a lot of the units that we're going to talk about are on full power. There are a couple of maybe not so great options that you might want to bring just to round out the fact that it has to be a full power team. But he does still give Extreme STR 4 key and 100%. So it's not the worst sub lead if you do end up using him as a leader or bringing him as a friend. So then we go on to this man right here, Omega Shenron. He is an absolute beast. Literally the only downside to running the Transformation Boost team with Cooler as the leader is that you can't use this guy because he's not on Transformation Boost or Terrifying Conquerors. But he is insanely good for Super Battle Road, mainly because of this thing right here in his passive. 40% attack nerf to the enemy. That is incredibly good. Plus he gives all full power category allies 2 key and 40% attack. So for example, you could have him linked up with somebody like the LR Full Power Frieza, and even though they don't have any key links, he's going to give him 2 key and an extra 40% attack, as well as the fact that there is a lot of crossover. Even if you're not going to run a proper full power team, like say you just bring Janemba or Hit as your lead, and then you just throw on all your best Extreme STR units. Not only is Omega good on his own anyway, but a lot of those other units, if they come under the full power category, they're just going to benefit massively by being on the same rotation as Omega. So he can deal very good damage, because obviously his buff applies to himself as well, but it's just that huge nerf is just so good. And if you have him on rotation with other units that lower attack or just have really high defense, you're going to have whole turns where people are just not going to take anywhere near as much damage as if he wasn't on the rotation. So he is a really good pick, and like I said, he's the only downside for running the Cooler team, is that you can't bring this guy on the team because he is that good. You really want him if you can run him. So Then we go on to Demon King Piccolo. So this guy's here mainly because he is a full power unit. So I wanted to try and include a couple of other full power units that not only will benefit from Omega Shenron, but can be run under the full power Frieza lead. He has 100% defense at the start of the turn, which is decent. And then he gives himself 3 ki and 200% attack for 5 turns. So as we've discussed, for Super Battle Road, not normally going to go longer than 5 turns. So that is a very nice attack buff. 100% defense is perfectly reasonable. And then he greatly lowers attack with his super. So that is obviously very useful. Like, if you have him on rotation with Omega, he's going to greatly lower someone's attack when they already have a 40% attack nerf. Like, that enemy is then basically not going to be able to deal damage to anyone for the rest of that turn. So he can be good. Links, he's not going to link up the best with some of the other units. Nightmare, I guess, is fairly common. Fierce Battle. But, like, his only real key links is in the Incredible Adventure, Strength in Unity, which I don't think anyone else has, Demonic Ways. Yeah, like, no one really shares key links with him on the team, which is okay for him because he's self-sufficient for the first few turns, but it doesn't help out the other people that he's with. So I guess, again, you could run him on a rotation with Omega, because with Omega giving him 2 ki as well, he's literally going to be basically auto-supering. And then Omega will be on, what, 8 ki, so you only need to get 4 for him. So that rotation could actually work pretty well. I do think this guy is lower in the list of priorities for choosing for your team, but if you want to run full power, he is one of the better units to bring. And greatly lowering attack is super good in Super Battle Road. So then we go on to this guy, the STR Fatboo. He is actually quite good. If he gets an easy A at some point, he will be insanely good, especially with how good the Margin team is after the Link update, which I know we don't have on Global, but preparing for the future. So he is an AoE unit. So he's going to hit everybody, as well as having a 20% chance to stun each of the enemies, and obviously that rolls separately, so you could stun like 2 or 3 of them. If it's a 5 enemy battle, you could stun 1, you could stun none, but he does hit everyone, which is really good. He changes in orbs to STR, and then he is a nuking style unit based on STR orbs. So in a mode like Super Battle Road, especially if you have no items active that turn, you're going to need to pick up quite a lot of orbs with him. Otherwise, unfortunately, he is going to get hit quite hard. But, I mean, I used him back on the original Extreme STR No Items run. And, like, that stun can come in clutch. And the fact that it does do damage to everyone. So it's good for when you've got people who've managed to survive on tiny slivers of health. You don't have to waste a super attack targeting that person, because Boo will just clear them out with his AoE. He doesn't have the best links again with the rest of the team, but because he orb changes, that does make him a little bit more self-sufficient. And obviously once you change a whole bunch of the orbs on the field to a certain colour and then take them all with him, that's going to hopefully make some better connections of other clusters of orbs for the other characters on the rotation as well. He is in a lot of categories. He's in Transformation Boost as well as Full Power, so you can run him on either of the team builds. So he could be very useful. And obviously changing orbs to same type, you are going to get some free healing out of him as well. So he's not the best unit, but I do think he's pretty decent for this. And then we have another Margin-esque unit. We have the Android 21. She recovers HP on her super and then also lowers attack. Now she lowers attack without supering, which is cool. She's self-sufficient with ki, so you're probably not going to have trouble supering with her, but even if you don't super with her, she actually will lower attack even with normal attacks, which is obviously very, very good for Super Battle Road, as we've discussed already. She also has a chance to transform starting from turn 4, which will then allow you to lower attack on super and automatically heal at the start of the turn. She also disables guard when performing a super, but obviously in this particular stage, that's not going to make any real difference. But she can be decent enough on the team, basically as not a support in the classical sense, but in the fact that she's going to be lowering attack and healing you a little bit. So she's a good option for like the 3rd slot floating sort of unit. And just make sure she directs her attack lowering to whoever's going to be attacking her. Plus, again, she's another unit who is on Transformation Boost and Full Power, so she fits into both of these category team builds that we've already talked about. So then we go on to another easy A unit. We have the STR Perfect Cell. He is again very, very good for Super Battle Road, because when there are multiple enemies, he lowers enemies' attack by 20%. Defense as well, but the attack is the most important. Any attack lowering on Super Battle Road is always good. And then he does have the option, so if you get 10 key or 12 key, he does his Solar Kamehameha. But if you get 11 key, he does his AoE, so not only are you going to hit everybody, but he also recovers 10% HP. So he has a little bit of healing support built in to his kit as well. So you can use him. I've often, in certain runs, even on things like Infinite Dragon Ball History and stuff like that, I've often used his 11 key super when I can get it, even if there's only one enemy, just because it gives you a heal. So that can be really useful. Plus, he does infinitely stack attack and defense regardless of which super you get. So even though Super Battle Road doesn't last as long as the longer form events, that still is going to give you a couple of raises. It means he's going to take less damage after supering, so he's more ideal in the second or third slot. But again, he's a unit that can fit in very well. He's got good links. He links really, really well with Omega, and he's on full power and transformation boost. So this guy on rotation with Omega Shenron is insane, because you get 20% debuff from him, 40% debuff from Omega, and then Omega's giving him 2 key and 40% attack. And if you pick up 6 or more orbs with this guy, he gets an additional attack and defense 30%. So him and Omega together can actually dish out a ton of damage, which does make the full power or just general extreme STR build a little bit more attractive, because you can run that rotation, because Omega is just that good basically. And then one final choice, this one, it seems like a little bit of a wild card, but we've got the Easy A for the Evil Buu, or Majin Buu Pure Evil. So he does supreme damage to the enemy, raises attack for 6 turns, so he can stack. So if he gets some additionals or whatnot, he can build up his attack quite high. He gives all enemies attack and defense minus 20% as well, and it's not contingent on multiple enemies, so even if there's only one enemy left, that debuff will still apply. And then he launches an additional super attack and has a high chance, which is at 50, yeah, 50%, of evading enemies' attacks when there is a Majin Buu Saga category enemy. Which again, with these OG stages of Super Battle Road, there's actually quite a few different fights that you can get that will have Buu Saga enemies. Like, I know one of the first fights that you can often get is Hercule, Videl, and Buu. One of the second fights I think you can get is Gotenks and Piccolo. So there's quite a few fights spread out throughout the run that could be against Majin Buu Saga enemies, and so those fights are where this guy is really going to shine. But if you don't have a Buu Saga enemy, he's still going to be pretty good as a third slot floating unit, because again, he debuffs the enemy by 20% attack, which is always useful in Super Battle Road. And he's not on full power, but he is on transformation boost, so he fits in to the team builds fairly easily as well. So there you go, that is some of the top picks and honourable mentions. Like last time, let's switch over to the in-game view here, just to show you 2 examples of teams that I built. This is the transformation boost one, as you can see with the cooler lead, Janemba, Cell, this Buu, Fat Buu, and Android 21. And then I did include the full power build as well, with Frieza as the lead, Demon King Piccolo, Cell, Android 21, Omega Shenron, and Fat Buu again. So you can see there's a lot of crossover. I actually didn't bother making an example of a team that just has Janemba as the lead, because it basically will be pretty much exactly this team or this team just put together under the Janemba leader. So if you can't make these teams, if you don't have Cooler, you don't have STR Super Buu to replace Cooler as a transformation boost lead, and you don't have full power Frieza, you want to run either Hit or Janemba, and then run any combination of these units. If you are running a team that can run Omega, and a rotation of Omega and Cell is insanely good in this mode, so you definitely want to do that if you can. So if you can't run any of those kind of team builds, again, we can discuss more in the comments. Let me know what teams you're planning to build, or if there are any units that you think I should have talked about that I didn't mention. Mention them down below in the comments, and we can talk about them in more details down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. You can follow me on Twitch or join my Discord. The link is in the description below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.